Imagine having an AI-powered search engine for candidate profiles from across the open web and even from within your own ATS. Well, that's exactly what HireTool is. HireTool is a global talent platform that serves all recruiters, from small businesses to the world's largest enterprises. And with 750 million plus profiles from over 45 open web sources and channels and 30 plus integration partners, there's literally something for everyone. Recruiters can find more talent with AI sourcing, send unlimited emails, and integrate with your favorite recruitment tools all in one platform. If you're spending hours looking for qualified candidates, underrepresented talent, and updated contact information, then HireTool is probably what you need for your toolkit. HireTool is a platform that helps great recruiters accomplish more every single day. Check them out at hiretool.com.
To my surprise,
HR Famous, what's up? It's Jessica Lee, and I'm here with my friends Tim Sackett, Chris Dunn. You know, we always have the same intro music, which actually hits really hard for me. I love it. But because today I want to start by talking about one of the best holidays of the year, Halloween. I feel like, I don't know, maybe we need some like spooky, intro,
All right.
woo type of
Cam,
thing.
hit the spooky music.
So it turns out, actually, I wasn't always a Halloween person growing up, partially because my parents didn't let us go trick-or-treating because one, they thought it was the devil's holiday. Well, because I grew up religious, they thought it was the devil's holiday, number one. And number two, they thought people would put razor blades in the candy.
Yeah.
But as I have grown up, guys, Halloween, it's almost here. And I love the holiday, but I want to talk about a few things. And I'm coming to you, Mr. Christian Dunn, first, which is I want to know, are you dressing up this year? And if so, as what? And then I have a follow-up question for both of you. But Mr. Dunn, you first.
So I don't have plans, so I don't think I'm dressing up, JLee, but I will answer your question. If I was dressing up, I would, I'd probably go as a mid-career executive, just kind of hammering it out, maybe in some business casual, smart shoes, just doing what I do. But I will say this, best Halloween costume I ever had was Jackie Moon, played by Will Ferrell in the basketball themed movie called Semi-Pro.
I might have to do that.
And you wore like short shorts with it too.
Actually, I went to the party store and it came with a complete warm-up, top and bottom.
Oh,
and
warm-up.
I bought a big blonde wig.
I feel like I've seen this one.
Yeah, it's good.
I might have to do that one this year. I actually, I will be actually dressing up because it's the Michigan State tailgate on October 30th. And so we will have a Halloween themed tailgate where we will dress up. I usually dress up for like work too. So.
Well, perfect segue. Speaking of dressing up for work. So Halloween this year is on a Sunday, which I think is good. And I'm hoping all the trick-or-treating starts early and we can do that and have fun or just be like drunk all day on Halloween. But like lately, I'm really into the idea of dressing up at work. And one of the things, and I'm competitive. So I've done everything from like pumpkin carving contest to also like Halloween costume contest. But one of the things I'm very cognizant of lately is this like the forced fun that like people don't really want to do this, or do they? And so I'm seeking some opinions around like, are they just going along with it because they're just trying to make me happy? Or like, is this a good thing? Or am I violating people's beliefs that it's the devil's holiday? So I just need some words of wisdom. Today's episode is all about wisdom from you both. Words of wisdom on like, am I forcing my perspective of fun on other people?
So Tim? we have the triple F in the Sackett family, forced family fun. And so Kim makes because as the boys get older, as kids get older, they're like, this is lame. We don't want to do it. They always have fun. And I see this, I think the same thing about work is for everybody that's like, oh, this is lame. At the end of the day, the majority of people are going to have fun. You might have a couple that don't, too bad. It's just cost of doing business kind of thing. But I do think like sometimes when you force people to have fun, they have fun. It's okay.
Yes. The triple Fs. Oh, it's not the triple Timmy touch, but it's the triple Sackett Fs.
Yes, forced family fun. And all the boys know it. They always say that. They're like, is this a forced family fun? They have to check, because if it is, they have to do it. If it's not, then it's kind of like, hey, I'm not going to make it kind of thing.
Interesting. What about you, Chris? Am I forcing fun on people? Do I need to just back off and let people wear their, your mid-career business casual costume to work that day?
You mean the mid-career executive
Yes, yes,
costume that I'm
yes.
so fond of? No, I
Yes.
don't think you're forcing it, JLee. I think you're doing something that's part of your brand. I think people appreciate it. And just like Tim's kids, out of 10 people, you might have one that might resent it a little bit. You're going to have like 4, which is really Tim's kids, on the fence somewhere. And once they do it, they're actually going to have fun. They just have to be led and asked to do it, and they'll cease being fence sitters. They'll actually have fun.
By the way,
they'll be glad they're a part of it.
Jay, I know you're going to get into this too. I think the ones from a work standpoint, I think the times that it's the best is when it's done by a team, because then you don't have somebody on the outside going, they show up as like an apple or an M&M, and then everybody else is something different. They feel stupid. But if you do it as a team, as a theme, then now they feel part of, like, everyone's together, right? And it kind of reduces the anxiety and embarrassment.
Oh my gosh, you just triggered for me a really great team costume idea. So
M&Ms?
last year, well, that's an interesting one. Last year, my team, I don't watch it, but I've got a lot of Cobra Kai fans amongst my colleagues. And so we went for a Cobra Kai theme. But you said apple, and I just feel like, have you seen people as a Fruit of the Loom group? And that
I thought you were going to all show up as Steve Jobs, like every single person.
No. Fruit of the Loom, because I really just want someone to do like the purple grapes with the balloons as purple grapes. Like, that's brilliant.
By the way, have you thought of Game of Thrones? You could be the mother of dragons. Oh,
there's too much incest in Game of Thrones for me to bring that to work, probably.
Okay. Yeah,
there's that.
Pop culture.
What a downer,
right?
What a downer. No Game of Thrones.
I am HR at the end of the day, by the way.
JLee, I've got another idea for you in year 3, because you're going to run out of ideas. I would do a team of developers. So there's this great scene in HBO's Silicon Valley where Gavin Nelson, who's supposed to be like the leader of Google, is with his life coach right behind him up in the building, looking down on the courtyard. And he's making an observation about there's 5 different personas in every wolf pack of software developers that roams the campus. You have to look that up. That'd be a good one for you to do.
I think Tim is BTS.
Well, I would love to, but I think people would just be like, she's herself today. What's going on? She's Korean. She's Korean every day.
No, but you know how they dress. Like, they all have the thing going. Yeah, come on.
But the risk that you run, Chris, with the idea you have, let's say we're all in person in the office, because this happened the last year we were in person. If you're roaming as a pack, people will know there's a theme here. But if one of you separate from the pack, then you're just like, they showed up looking like a schlep today, because I had a girl who came into my office for a meeting, and I was like, you're kind of dressed down today. What's going on? She was like, no, I'm so-and-so from Schitt's Creek. She's like, that's why. And I was like, okay. I don't even watch this show. So I wouldn't have known that, but I just was like, she's quite casual. I have since then watched it and I got it, but I was like, I don't know what's
versus the fig leaf from the Fruit of the Loom that shows up on his or her own, and it's all okay because it's Halloween. Got it. Noted.
It is confusing though. The last time I went in as Where's Waldo, people were like, you didn't strike me as the stripes person, because I didn't have my hat on.
This is JLee, this is all risk reward, because you know as well as I do that when people stretch in Halloween or any type of identity thing with Halloween, there's some other types of parties that happen like this, but when they stretch, they're looking for the big win. They're looking for the non-obvious. They're looking to be clever.
Hey, a funny one for HR. I saw, this is years ago, a pack of HR people went as Care Bears, but as the HR version of non-Care Bears, and made up their own emotion. It was funny. And then they just had the little bear ears and the colors, and then their thing, on their chest.
I can't wait for Halloween. I can't wait. I need to figure out my work plan. You guys make me feel better about imposing forced fun. I've got my home plan. So I'm going to come up with a work plan and we will discuss how this plays out. I love it.
Nice.
So, okay, we're going to pivot. And I just saw something on LinkedIn that I thought was a little interesting. So I want to get your take on it. We've spent prior episodes talking about, should you be paid based on, your geographic location, and how does that affect your rate of pay? Like if you move from a high zone like DC, San Francisco, New York to somewhere else where cost of living is lower. So certainly we've had a lot of talk about that. Google has their, calculator out there, which I think will hit the broad public at some point, and we'll all pay for it. But here's what caught my eye. This was on, that old platform we call LinkedIn. I saw the chief HR officer of this organization drop their update. I'm first going to tell you about their update, and then I'm going to tell you what the company is. So maybe this is not like headline grabbing. So blank company is de-emphasizing location as a component of compensation, making it easier for employees to move. And so on the surface, you're like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. But the company, dun, 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 is Zillow. Zillow, the preferred provider of Chris Dunn while he's running in a market that is not his own and trying to see how much the homes cost. So Zillow, a company that is inherently in the business of selling homes.
Yeah, by market.
Location.
By location. Yeah. Is now saying they're not going to, factor in location when it comes to compensation. And I just was like, that's interesting.
It's completely off brand, right? It's so weird.
I mean, is that off brand? Is it weird? So, Mr. Dunn, I know you love Zillow as an app. And so, I mean, Zillow as an employer in this move, like, what say you?
So I'm really like morphing on the whole like post-COVID remote work thing. I'm really morphing as a longtime HR professional. I've always understood geographic differentials. Like I'm used to having like 6 big market codes, right? That kind of jack the ranges up or down. Like I'm used to all of that. I think work has changed a little bit. I'm really softening up to this approach. And Tim hates it, but I'm just going to tell you that in this great transition that's happened, by the way, yes, I just said great transition. Capital G, capital T. In this great transition that's happened, at least for a 2 to 3 year period until things get back to the new normal, what somebody got paid in a bigger market is what they're worth. And by the way, if Google doesn't want to pay people, what's going to happen is Zillow is going to pick them up. They're going to pick those developers up that move to Billings, Montana, like whatever. They're going to be on the market. I've softened my approach to this. I used to be all gung-ho about the geographic coding from a comp perspective. I really just don't care as much anymore. And I think I will say this, and then I'll throw it back to you. San Francisco, New York. I'll start with those 2. Big time anomalies. That would be like a market 6 in some of the things that I've seen, out of 6 like market differentials. I think once you get below those supermarkets from a pay perspective, I don't think it matters. I can see a little bit of a penalty coming out of one of the supermarkets, but if you're moving from Atlanta to Montana, I don't know that it matters. Like going from a 5 to a 2 or a 4 to a 2 or what have you. I don't think it matters once you get outside the supermarkets.
There's an interesting stat that I read that it's like 85% of US citizens live within 60 miles of their birthplace. So I'm always wondering, are we just kind of making this into a bigger deal than what it really is? Because for the most part, the vast majority of Americans are going to stay where they're from. I mean, they just do. So if you're from San Francisco, you're from San Francisco. It's not, because I think our fear is, hey, someone's like Zillow is going to do this, and everyone's going to be making $200,000 a year, and they're going to move to Billings, Montana. But that crap doesn't happen. I mean, and we see this, Katie, in the Midwest. how many of these cities like Tulsa and always have these programs now that if you come here as a digital nomad, we'll give you $20,000, and they cannot get people to accept that money. People don't want to go to those cities, So
Where they want to go, Tim, is they want to go from San Francisco to Denver, San Francisco to Boise,
Boston,
San Francisco, in some accounts, to Reno, which is just total like tax play, especially South Lake Tahoe on the Nevada side.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing on this, JLee and Tim, is there's a big mouthful of privilege that goes along with this. So somebody like Google, to Tim's point, right? Because really we're talking about a smaller percentage of people. And when you work for Google, when you work for Apple, there's a lot of privilege there, and there's a lot of compensation, there's a lot of benefits, there's a lot of prestige that goes with that is not like the real world. So if you move to Denver from San Francisco and you work for Google, they can dare you. They can force you, JLee, to make a call. Are you sure you want to leave the Googleplex? But like reversing all the way back to Zillow can't make that call. Even if there's a lot of privilege working for Zillow and you're not really in the real world when you work for Zillow, and it's still a great place to work, it's not like Google or Apple. And what they're doing, I think, JLee, is they're saying for this small percentage, to Tim's point, of these digital elites that are making a move that we need or think we need, we're not like them, and we got to blow this open. Isn't this really a recruiting choice? This is a call on retention on what you think you can get away with.
I think that that's right. I mean, some companies, will approach how they, compensate people generally, because of the privilege. Like you have a brand, you have a name, you have the ability people want your name on their resume. And so, you're not going to pay at market. You'll pay a little bit below market or less competitively. And so, yeah, I think that that's a choice and it's a privilege. And I think the interesting thing though, with, exercising these privileges is also though, that at a certain point you can't rest on you may not be able to rest on the laurels of your name and your brand. Like, things may fade, you may become too comfortable or lazy, something might happen in your industry, you could have a scandal that tarnishes your brand because of decisions the company has made or poor product issues or whatever. And so that's where it becomes dangerous, right? Is like you can't always rely on the strength of your name to do some of these things. What is interesting about Zillow, though, is it is a little ironic, but I do think like the thing that they also need to play up a bit more is, and they say this in like the headline, the way they talk about this. This is also for them, trying to make it easier for their employees to move because they want to encourage movement. That is also the business that they're in, and
It's a good
so
marketing spin, right?
yeah. And I think like part of this is like, how much you read into the details. So I think encouraging people to move is something that they, want to do. And, the way that their CHRO closes the articles also that like they have seen people like disperse and move to a wider area. So, before the policy, they had employees in 31 states. And as a result of this, they now have employees in 49 states. So
Do
I
we
think
do we
there's something to that.
feel do we feel like somehow, like, the whole saying, like a butterfly flaps its wings and on the other side of the world there's a hurricane, right? Do we feel down the road somehow this is an HR program that's just gonna go wrong, blow up? Like we don't I think we make decisions and we think, oh, this is great, like Katie, great transition, work has changed. And then 3 years from now, like we have we're gonna be laying people off in like Billings, Montana, that were making $200,000 a year because there's no way they should be making that much in that market. Like, I'm just wondering, like, I'm just cautious. Like, to me, this screams of like just HR knee-jerk reaction programming,
Hey, but you're talking to the guy, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
pretty
you've gotten super soft though, dude.
I'm pretty
Super
Like
soft.
conservative.
the
No, no, no,
pandemic,
no, no.
has wore you down. You're a
I beg to
shadow.
differ. I beg
You're
to
a
differ.
shadow of yourself.
By the way, like while you're both like taking the, the steel bar to my like back right now, I'll say this, like where people are moving is generally like there's a certain small percentage that's choosing to move to various locations that we've been told a lot about, right?
Yeah.
Denver, Salt Lake City, California to Texas, right?
Yeah.
No state taxes, blah, blah, blah. A big percentage of the people aren't moving to locales of choice. They're moving to where they have family.
Yeah.
So they ended up in one of these mega cities, and because of COVID and everything that happened, they made the move back to family, and they want to stay there. I think that's a bigger percentage than the people. Of course, Tim, I guess, is anti-family. That's what he's telling us, like by his like staunch stance on this.
You see how he attacks back?
Anti-family. We
This is how he
must
fights,
protect
JLee.
the base. We must do it like we've always done it.
But so I'm going to rewind on a comment you made, though. I actually would be curious to know, for companies that are making this decision, how much of this is driven by HR, or is this like a CEO who's like, "Hey, I got this idea. I think we should do this thing." So I
was
question
watching
whether or not
CNN
it's
this
HR.
morning, and I saw this tech company do this. We should do this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where I
Well,
saw Johnny Taylor on CNBC.
and he had this program that we could buy. He's part of like this SHRM thing, and we should go do it.
He's
He
got
was
the
on
book
CNBC.
called, what is it, Tim?
Reset. The Great Transition. No, I don't know. That's Katie's subtitle.
So let me ask both of you. I know you want to move on, JLee. So you've mocked me and my post-COVID sensibilities. How hardcore are you about geographic differences? We know where stodgy traditionals like Tim Sackett stands on this. Where do you stand, JLee, like on this geographic codes?
Welcome to The Human Role, your go-to podcast where HR and payroll collide with innovation. I'm your host, Tiana Neal, and every month I'm diving deep with industry experts and change makers, bringing you real talk insights, practical tips, and fresh takes you won't hear anywhere else. Whether you're a leader, practitioner, or just curious about the latest HR and payroll trends, I've got you covered. Ready to roll with the best? Tune in for fresh perspectives, actionable tips, and the knowledge you need to roll forward with confidence. Subscribe now and let's transform the way you work.
Well,
joking,
so
Tim. I love you.
I'm not trying to like take a pass or like cop out here, but I actually just think like this is a moment in time. This will blow over, and I do wonder, are we overreacting to like the place and time that we're at? And so I just feel like it's too early, and like things are going to go back to how they were, and I don't know. It just feels weird to me to be making such big, drastic policies or programs related to.
Once we
this
take a couple
issue.
weeks off and this thing just blows on over. Right. I got it.
To me, I think the most difficult thing of all this is not the person who wants to move from San Francisco to some other lower like market type. It's when the person from Billings decides they want to move to San Francisco and they're like, hey, I need a $40,000 increase. Now, I think that's really hard for executives and HR people to go, okay, yeah, we're just going to give you $40,000 more to do the exact same job because you've decided to make a move to a city. And that's what that's what this is. It's not just one way. This is always, and I think that is really hard for us to swallow. And so it's great to put it out there in practice until it starts happening, and you start to see all of a sudden your salaries going up because people decide to go live to the most expensive place in the world. Like, hey, I've decided I'm going to work for Zillow now out of Singapore. Like what? No.
But Tim, that's an even smaller percentage than the percentage that you repped earlier.
But that's how these things unravel in an executive boardroom, Katie.
Well, I'll tell you how the HR team handles that in most companies, okay? They take the salary and say, hey, I've got great news for you. You're in the same job and your comp ratio has dramatically improved. You're looking at upwards of 4 to 5% on the merit increase based on your comp ratio that used to be 1.11. It's now 0.89. These are great times for you, my friend. Your
that does not happen.
That does happen a lot. Not at great companies like the ones we represent, but at more mundane HR TA teams. The 0.89 comp ratio in coming to a major market is real.
I'm not making fun of you for being soft on this. Actually, what I was going to comment and say is like, you know what? It's nice when one can change their point of view and perspective on something and just not dig in. So
Here
hats
I
off
am.
to you, like evolving with,
It's like new
yeah.
old white guy. Yeah, he's so
I
awesome.
have like an environmental friendly hat on right now that you made fun of earlier. You didn't see me as the outdoorsy Columbia type. There's a lot of
Tree
change
hugger.
going on in my life, JLee. I think you'd be impressed by a lot of things, but I
Oh
digress.
my goodness. You digress. Okay. Last topic. So, if someone happened to pop into LinkedIn recently, they might see I had a little thing happen, which I'm really proud of, but I don't want to spend all the time bragging, but got promoted at work and I'm very proud of
Yeah,
myself.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so, I am, trying to take it in stride. And I want to make sure that I just, like I'm trying to take this in stride and like go about it in the right way. I'm not like so full of myself where I believe like I know everything I'm doing and here we all go. So I am going to let everyone else in our listening audience in on the kind of advice that you get when you are friends with people like Chris Dunn and Tim Sackett, because we could be doing this, in a text thread, or not that Chris really drinks, but like this is the type of thing you would like talk about over drinks. And so I am here paging my life coaches, Christian Dunn, Timothy Sackett, and I want to get your like advice because you are sage and your wisdom,
So Jay,
and
tell everybody the title and what you're going to be
oh,
focused on.
sure. So I still work for Marriott, rhymes with Chariot, and I was appointed to a new role as it's so weird to say the title out loud because I haven't said it very much, and I also feel a little like it's weird to say, but I've been appointed to a role as Senior Vice President of Global Talent Development. And so some people might call this the Chief Learning Officer of the organization, but it's a big old job. And I'm really excited about it. It is exciting. So all of learning reports to me, as well as our internal performance consulting function, different from performance management. So that's the new job. It's a big job. And so I have 3 areas. Some of these things I have a point of view on, but I'm always all ears and I want to listen to my elders and take all the advice in. And so 3 areas where I want to get your advice and everyone gets a benefit from this. So I think the first thing is, and I've been coaching other people I work with, through this. I've been through this before, but anytime someone's getting promoted, especially within an environment that they, it's like their current team or something, when you go from being a teammate to a leader of teammates, I think that this can always be a tough transition. I've gone through it before, and have, had to work my way through it. But I think that's one of the first areas where I'd be curious to get your guys' perspective on like, how should one approach this when you're going from being teammate to a leader? And we originally started calling Christian Dunn the life coach. So I'll start with the OG life coach number 1, Christian Dunn. And so have at it. Spew wisdom, soapbox, go.
So what you're describing is you have people who know you, who you may have been at a peer level, whether you were on the same team or what have you, and now you're managing some of those folks, right?
Yep.
So I think my big thing, just to like wrap it up, is you want to rely on the experience around you, right? So those folks have as much experience, if not more, than you do. So you want to be patient because of that experience, but you want to be decisive. And what I mean by that is the patience is kind of showing empathy and acknowledgement that they know what they're doing. But the trap in that is that if you do that too much and don't have a plan on the change that you see, like under your leadership where you want to get to, you won't be as decisive. So you have to thread the line and have one foot in both worlds. You have to be patient with them, which is really an acknowledgement that they're good at what they do. But, the job is like forging a new direction, because the change that comes with having a new leader in a company, in a functional area, in a department, all the way down to the single team level, that change is something that's the most powerful thing, like in performance in any company. So I would say be patient, rely on the expertise, but be decisive about where you want to go and have opinions.
Decisive. What people can't see because they're not on our Squadcast stream with us is, as Christian Dunn was sharing, like there was this also like I don't know if you knew you were doing it consciously, but like a rubbing of the chin of like, I'm going to pass my wisdom on to you, young Padawan.
Classic KD
That
pose.
shows you that it's sincere, JLee, right?
It is. I know all of this is sincere. I appreciate it. Okay, Tim, what's your thoughts on that one?
I have two things I think work really well for new leaders in transition. One would be to actually have a full formal transition meeting with a facilitator, right? That says one of those questions would be with you not in the room with a facilitator. Hey, let's help her be successful, right? Let's help the organization be successful. So as JLee moved into this new role, what advice do you have as people who used to be a peer who now she's your leader? How do you want to be communicated with? There's all these kinds of transitional things that you get to hear from them, and and what it is it's establishing that separation. Your leader, they're going to be reporting to you like how is this going to work, and what are the best way for you guys to work together to move forward. And then the other one would be the actual schedule. And I always had it weekly, but it depends on how many direct reports you have, is one-on-one time where it's their time. You don't lead it. They lead it. They come to you. They have an agenda, things they want to talk about. If they don't have anything that week, it's up to them to cancel that, but also explain to you like why, and I never let anybody cancel 2 in a row kind of thing. And I was very diligent about making sure I had time with them one-on-one each week so that I could get updates about what they were doing. I could actually ask questions, probe. But it gave them time with me so that they could kind of manage up. And that was and I never had the agenda. It was their agenda,
Yeah. The idea of having a third party to help with that transition, I think is really interesting, because most times when I've heard about like formal transition with a third party, it's usually like helping a senior person transition into a new role, but not necessarily leveraging that third party with the team themselves. So I think that's super interesting. And the other thing that's interesting about just everything you guys are both sharing is that, part of my remit includes onboarding, it includes leadership development. And so I've actually been thinking about like what's working, what's not, and then how do I bring that to life in actual programs
And
for
Jay,
the
by the way,
company.
it doesn't have to be a third party out of the company person. I mean, trainers do a great job at doing those kinds of transition, right? Just a
Yeah.
normal, hey, we have trainers on the LOD team that we're going to have them come in, and actually they do amazing at doing just that. And then also kind of sharing the information back and forth when when you're brought back into the office. So.
Hey, one thing to add to Tim's great advice, JLee, too, is I would encourage you, if you don't have access to it, or if it hasn't been done, I would do an assessment layer on your folks as really part of that. We call it an assimilation package, where you talk about kind of what drives your like work DNA and your managerial DNA. You get to know them a little bit that way too. And by the way, I've got a great, just building on everything both of you are talking about. If you want it, JLee, out of the Boss Leadership Training Series, I've got a great kind of a simulation like package that you can follow. So a trainer or whoever you choose could facilitate that for you. It's a really good one.
You should look for that proposal in your email.
Well, good news is I've got all the trainers reporting to me now. So
nice.
Which is interesting, because does that make it too close?
Yeah, like it's possible
based on what's going there. But by the way, a really good like professional manager could come in and run one of these sessions as well.
Yeah. Hey Jay, question to you. Because we know each other's careers. You haven't had a lot of LOD in your background at that, especially at obviously a myriad kind of enterprise level. Do you feel like you're going to have to get some education around that, and that potentially you might have folks looking at you going, hey, she doesn't have the background for this? I'm wondering, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting question. So, one of the things that I really still call upon is, for anyone who's been a generalist, you've had to do learning and development, you've had to do talent development. And so I have had those experiences. And I always like to remind people, like people don't always remember that I've had generalist chops. And so that's something that I always go back to for sure. And I think, one of the things that like the pivot we're wanting to make is, I think we've classically seen learning and development as learning and development training, as opposed to a more holistic view on how you develop people, which I think goes in a lot of different directions. And so I've got, really strong point of view on that. The thing that I would say though is I have opinions, I have some grounding, but I think that when you're at a certain level and given the level of this position, it's less about the subject matter expertise. And I've
Leadership,
got
yeah.
teams who will do that and who bring that to the table. And I rely on and look to them for that. And so I think it's leadership, but also like a big fat part of my job is like understanding the business, navigating the politics. And that's where I want to like, you guys do what you're great at and what you love doing, and let me focus on like managing the muckety mucks and all of that. And so that's
Great
something
mindset.
that's
Yeah.
that I want to make sure folks know. And I think people do know that, but the good news is I'm not like a new leader to them. I've been around them. And so they also know me well enough to know I've been in their space. I've got opinions. I'm a quick study, and that I won't like, I'll do the homework that's needed to learn something, but no, I'm not a instructional designer at the end of the day. And I've got, folks who have that expertise instead of
Hey,
me.
JLee, just to react to that, I would tell you that one of the challenges is everything you said is correct. You know the environment, and you've got the background to do the job. You've got people who are good at what they do, and you're going to manage like all of that tough stuff that occurs like offline. Make sure, like my advice for you would be, I think that's where the decisiveness part comes in, right? Because you want to think about, and this is part of the conversation with your team and like the fact finding that you've already done and will continue to do. Like, what's the identity of that team going to be over the next 2 to 3 years? And where do you want to change? Where do you want to change it? Like what needs to change to meet where the business is going, to blend some of these things together? And that's the guidance that they need, because we all like get caught up in the day to day of just plowing it together. And if you're not decisive about those things, you could wake up in a couple of years and really maybe not have moved where you wanted to move.
Yeah. And that resonates. Like, I think, as I've been settling in, that's, that those are some of the questions that are coming up. Like, what are your expectations going to be? What is your vision? And I've got some ideas around it, but I've also been trying to be thoughtful to say to them, like, I need to dig in. I want to dive deep with you to understand like the reality and check my assumptions, marry that with what's happening in the business, and then let's come up with that. But people seem to be hungry. They don't want to just keep like chugging along and not be aligned. So it's interesting. So I'm going to ask for one last piece of advice in a certain area, which I'll get your advice and perspective, and then I'll tell you why I'm asking. So one thing I hadn't really thought about is like advice as you're taking on a new gig, and it's a big job, but like navigating things at home. Like I've got new stresses, different stresses, and how do I manage that with my family? So I'm curious what you guys would say about that, and I'll go to Mr. Sackett first.
I mean, again, I know, obviously, Bobby has a great career and position with the federal government. You obviously just took a big promotion as well. I think you're going to have to figure out what does that look like, with family and friends. And what I'll say is like your time becomes exponentially more valuable. So cleaning woman, nanny, professional, meals being sent to the house, stuff like there's things that you can do that will actually make your life easier. You have to figure what those are and what those aren't. Because I think if you try to maintain that same kind of life, and we had this weird pandemic thing, and then you get promoted, and then, at some point you're probably back in the office more than not. Like, I think you got to figure out those things that are going to help you navigate your life better on the personal side, that are going to help you. Some of those you won't feel like it's helped. So don't do those, but there's some that will.
Mr. Dunn.
Self-care, take care of yourself. Yeah.
Self-care.
Right.
I think for me, JLee, that I think you're self-aware to ask that question. I think the only reason you would get caught is if you continue to try and work the way that you've worked over the last couple of years, because every time you take a new position and you go up in the organization, you've already referred to it, right? Different skills are called for. So you're going to have to really watch your delegation side. And I'm sure you're good at it, but it's going to require a different level of delegation. It's going to require a different level of trust, but verify in terms of follow up and those things. To the extent you try and hold on to work as you know it now, you may see pressures come on your family, but you get those hours back by understanding that you really have to redefine, like related to what this new role is. And some of it won't change, but some of it will and should. And I think that's how you keep your hour count at a reasonable place where it's been. You've always been a hard worker. You don't cut it off at 40, right? You've always like looking, you've got this blended lifestyle, is my sense. You haven't told me, where you work at different times. You get the laptop out late after the kids are in bed to get things done. I think you can still get it done in your hour count, but you won't be able to do work in 100% the same way as you did it before, because it's a different level and it requires different skills. So I think if you keep your eye on that and you're totally honest with yourself about what that is, and you catch yourself when you're slipping, I think as long as you're honest and aware, it won't carve into your family really hard.
Yeah. I like that. You guys both went in different directions, but it's helpful stuff. The reason why I actually asked the question is I'm very thankful I'm married to someone who's very supportive of me, but like I didn't think about having any conversation with Bob about like, hey, what does this mean in terms of like home life? But actually the other day he said to me like, do we need to do anything different? Like, do you want me to do more pickups, drop-offs, whatever? And he also, I think, is sensing I'm a little bit more stressed out than I was before. And he was just asking, like, do we need to do something? Like, are you always going to be this stressed out? Like, do we need to be like thinking? And it's not like manifesting itself, but yeah, he's just like, do we need to, like, what do we need to do to make sure like you're going to be successful? And I was actually really blown away. Like, oh my God, I'm married to a very supportive and aware person. And I think it takes a lot for someone to ask those questions. And I don't know, I'm not going to get emotional, but I was like, oh wow, good man. So I married well,
I'm getting emotional, like hearing the story. Maybe you're not. But that's cool of Bobby to do that, because just the fact that it's there, I'm saying that you probably won't need that once you settle in. You kind of redefine what work is to you. But just the fact that it's there, that you could ask for it in a given day or a week, is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And that takes a lot
it
of
takes
pressure
the
off.
pressure and stress where I'm like, oh my God, I need to run out to the bus stop. But no, I can just say to him, look, I need to take this meeting and you got to go get the kids. So well, I did a good job of marrying. I won't say either of us married up. I think we both found our match. So good for me. I'm excited about this next chapter. Thank you for the wisdom. You guys are smiling at me with like proud, happy looks, which is just, it feels nice. Thank you guys. I do appreciate the wisdom though. Like I think all of us hopefully approach new jobs with this idea of like, let's listen and learn from others because people have been through it before. So I'm thankful that I have people that can give me great advice and perspective. So with that, you all get to benefit out there in HR famous land from the wonderful words of wisdom from my friends, Kristen and Tim Sackett. And that's another episode of HR Famous. We are out.